Hey, we're going to use ChatGPT to answer some questions. Today it's about break even. And so we're going to see when break even is achieved under different assumptions and conditions. So let's get started. Usually when we work with ChatGPT, we want really specific questions or prompts. And in the case of this lab, it's going to be, how does profit change as unit price, unit sold, unit variable cost, or total fixed cost change? And so we want to see how break even changes. Why is break even important? Well, if you have a new product or an old product, you want to know if you're at least making money. Because if you're not making a profit, perhaps you should not make it or do it anymore or not propose it. And so let's go ahead and address this question and get started. We're going to do so by starting a new chat, and you can either just click right here on new chat, which works fine. I like to clear the registers of sorts. This particular lab has no data file. You'll note the instructions are in the notes, but I like to work with ChatGPT when I am trying to solve a question and have it work with me and tell me what it needs. And so as we start to apply analytical techniques, we're going to ask a question like, hey, I want to perform a break-even analysis. And notice we need to have some very specific wording here. And so ChatGPT already knows what a break-even is, and now we're telling it we want to know the break-even to analyze changes in profits as the number or amount of sales, or the cost, unit variable, unit fixed, or sales price changes. And so we're going to ask it directly, how do I do that? And so it's going to give us some scenarios and tell us what we need to provide. And I like this because it's kind of a tutorial. It's kind of cluing ChatGPT into what we want to do. And so it says, hey, first define your base case. Like, hey, where are you at? And so it actually proposes something. It actually says, from my previous work, this is what you would find. That's not going to be the case today, but you can kind of see what the per unit sales price is, number of units sold, fixed costs, and that's in total. And when it says variable costs, I like to think of that in terms of unit, like per unit of product. And then we're going to use some standard formulas. Oftentimes I'll have it print out the formula so I can check and make sure it's correct. This is correct. And it says, hey, if you use this old base scenario, this would be your answer. That's not actually what I want to do, but it's kind of providing that. So notice what this says. It says define your base case and then ask it to calculate the break even. And then we're going to do some more sensitivity analysis where we allow the assumptions to change. What happens if we sold more? What happens if we sold less? What happens if the price goes up? What happens if the price goes down or the costs change? And then finally, we're going to ask it to generate a profit table. In Excel, this would be called a data table, and just see, hey, how profit changes under different scenarios. But for now, we're going to go ahead and define the base case. And these are in your instructions of the scenario we're going to use. You can use anything you want, but we're going to assume we sell 3,000 units for a sales price of $25. The per unit variable cost, and you'll notice that I really like to say the word unit just so it knows it's not like total variable cost, but the unit variable cost is $18 and total fixed costs are $12,000. And so we're going to ask it to calculate the profit for this base scenario. So notice we're not yet asking it to do a break even. We're just saying, hey, where are we at when we get started? Okay, and so we've told it that we're doing a break even analysis. And so now it's going to go ahead and compute the profit. And so you can kind of see, hey, assuming these assumptions, what's the base case? And it says, hey, we could do some sensitivity analysis. But actually, since I'm doing a break-even analysis, that's more important in the moment. I want to know, based on this scenario, how many units would I need to sell in order to break even? Okay. So it might be I'm have a lemonade stand, and I want to know how many. I've got to go get the lemonade mix and everything all put together. I want to know how many I have to sell. And so this says, hey, we're rounding up, but it'd be 17, 15 units. And so that is the break-even level given this scenario. But usually in this case, we want to go ahead and say everything's an assumption. We probably are not going to sell exactly that. And so we want to know how that scenario will change. And so we're going to run a sensitivity analysis. And sensitivity analysis just means we're going to change some assumptions. I usually find it best to change 1 or 2 items at a time, mostly so it's a 2 by 2 and I can see how that works. If I do 3 or 4, it will still work, but it will be really messy to try to communicate later. And so I'm asking it, hey, what happens if the sales price goes between 20 and 30? You can see we started at 25. And what happens if the per unit variable cost is allowed to vary between 6 and 12? And you'll see we started at 18 as the variable cost. And so we're changing this up and seeing what it takes. And so we're asking it, hey, what would break even be? And it looks like we're making more profit because, well, the costs or the sales are almost the same. The unit variable cost is lower than where we started. So it looks like we might have a different level of break even. And so ChatGPT is going to give us a scenario to look at, a table to look at to see what it would look like in each scenario. So notice what's happening here. We're saying if the sales price is still 20 but the variable cost is 6, you need to sell 857. But let's say that the sales price is 24 and the variable cost is 6, then you need to sell 667. So you can kind of see how that would vary throughout those, and it gives us a bunch of scenarios. Now, I personally like to see this in a heat map. I can see all these, but it's almost like too much for a screen. I certainly could output that if I wanted, or I could actually change the Python code here. And we'll just click on that and you can see what Python does. And so if you're a Python aficionado, you'll see NumPy and Pandas, kind of some standard libraries there. So you can certainly see what's under the hood. But I like to see this in terms of a heat map. Heat map meaning the heat or the hue of the color will change based on different scenarios. So I'm asking it, what we just ran as a sensitivity analysis, instead of providing it as a table, I'd like you to show it to us as a heat map, and so that I can see that. We're starting to move into the tell the story mode, because if we want to communicate this, we wouldn't just hand the CEO, a huge table. We'd probably say, hey, here's a heat map, because our minds interpret visual faster and more completely. And so you can kind of see these various scenarios, right? We allowed sales price to vary, we allowed variable cost to vary, and that's going to change. Now we can change all these and make different colors here, but you can kind of see this. I actually prefer that variable costs start low and go high, but that's something we can work with that. And so here's the heat map visualization. We're going to kind of change it up one more time, and we're going to say, hey, I want to change the unit sales price back to its original base case of $25, but now let's allow the fixed cost to change and say, hey, will you rerun that? What is the break-even level? And so I didn't specifically specify. I don't know if it's going to give me a table or give me a heat map. Usually it's going to build on what we just did in terms of a heat map, but you can see that it's given us the answer because we gave it something very specific. So we're going back to the base case. We're changing 2 of the items, and we're seeing, what the output would need to be. So as we complete this lab, we just need to do a few outputs. So we're going to go ahead and output that heat map, and since there was only one of them, we don't have to specify which one, but we can say, hey, go ahead and output it and put it into a JPEG, or in this case, a PNG file, and so that we could provide that, just email it to someone or copy and paste it into another document or an executive summary. Finally, after this, we're going to ask it to display the prompts that it provided. And I always like that. So here's the visualization again, and here it's telling us where I can get it. So I could click on this, and it's going to show up in my downloads folder. And the other thing I'm going to ask it to do is just provide the prompts, and these are going to be the instructions that I gave. And so you can see one by one there. This is kind of a good scenario for me to save it so I kind of know what I did instead of just getting the output. I can put this along with the visualization, or I can go ahead and tweak some items and change it up for the next time. So that completes this lab.